Welcome to the show. We're talking about the 2024 Ford Bronco. Yes, if you order now, you can still get a 2024 Ford Bronco, but you need to know what to do. So we're going to cover that in tonight's video. What do you need to do to be able to get a Ford Bronco if you haven't already ordered one, or maybe you've ordered one already, but you haven't gone through the right procedures or ordered at the right place. Dealer is very important, what dealer you go to. So that's all about allotments. Now, we're also going to be talking about, well, Jeep, Porsche. I'm even going to throw in BMW in there. Marie's going to be talking about Jeep. I'm going to be talking about Porsche. So if Marie doesn't bring down the house. So welcome to the show, Marie.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining in. Marie went and got a few of the notes that were left upstairs. So starting the show here with, we've got Ridgeview. Thank you so much. We've got Marine Vet. Thank you, brother, for making it in. JM Genoa. The regular gang, sign in, say hi, let us know what you're up to and how you're doing. Of course, we're all being affected by this wild and crazy inflation, and so are prices. We've seen prices go up. You'll see it go up on the new Transit, for example. But what dealership you order at is so important. And the whole reason we're going to be talking about Jeep, Porsche, and BMW in line with EV talk is because, well, we kind of want to ask the question, are EVs doomed or are they in a boom? All these manufacturers are going towards EV sales. We're going to talk about whether that's voluntary or involuntary. Arcubo, thank you for making it in. The WB, always love having you around. Thank you very much for being here this evening as we talk some important pass on the EV. So YouTube Car Spotter's Guide is saying pass on the EV. And maybe I'm taking this out of context, but I think he's expressing what a lot of people want to express about EVs, and that's pass on EVs. EVs have a lot of benefits, but I have yet to find a soul, character, or personality to my F-150 Lightning. It's an incredible machine, but I just don't have any feelings for it. Whereas the Bronco, I can say, I love the Bronco. Absolutely love the Bronco. Having gone a few months without it gave me the jitters, the shakes. It was like a crackhead going through withdrawal problems. So two major problems going down right now, unfortunately, is wild inflation and well, a bit of a drug problem and crime problem in major cities. So hopefully, there's going to need a lot to be done for both of those things to be under control. Just like a lot is being done to save the planet, and apparently EVs are a way to save a planet, but is that really true? What's really going on with the whole push towards EVs? Why is it happening? What's going on? Will they even be affordable in the future? There's a lot of questioning about whether they'll be affordable. You know, BMW's CEO, we'll cover it in the notes, but I believe it was BMW's CEO saying that EVs are going to just basically push out the middle class from vehicle purchasing. Of course, if you actually go on and you look into the World Economic Forum's publicly available plan, they've made it public that they foresee a future. They're working towards a future. And, you know, that's, you can think, oh, well, it's not for me. I won't be forced into EVs. Well, you might actually be forced into no longer even owning a vehicle. So it would fall very much into the World Economic Forum's plan if EVs are just not affordable for middle class people. That middle class people will be taking the bus. So that's part of that's one agenda going down by one major organization. So we'll find out, I guess, in the next 10, 15 years if the World Economic Forum will have successfully priced us out of vehicle ownership. We know that in the last 3 years, vehicle prices have blown out of the water, but let's talking about vehicle prices, I think it's about time I put the pedal to the metal and actually get down to business. Not everyone, I won't get into a rant. I have successfully avoided a rant. So I occasionally get the comment of, I unsubscribe to your channel because I don't care about your rants. I care about vehicles. But guess what? My rants are related to vehicle ownership. My whole rant behind, don't take my steak away. I'll fight to keep my steak eating. I just finished a steak tonight. It was wonderful. I ate about 10 ounces. I'm full, I'm healthy, I'm trim, and I'm in shape. And a lot of that has to do with my steak diet. And the whole agenda to take away protein, animal-based foods, it's the same agenda of Save the Planet that's working to take away our vehicles and force electric vehicles force electric vehicles really on only wealthy people, because the rest of us are going to be taking the bus. And I know some U.S. politicians think it's very exciting. They think that if they give us, they say things like, what could be better than taking the bus when you can charge your cell phone right on the bus? And, isn't that wonderful? No, it's not wonderful being shoved in to a space with, 60, 75 people, some of which smell all sorts of different odors, people bumping into each other, no manners, pregnant women expected to stand up because most men aren't gentlemen anymore, and they probably missed a spanking on their bottom to show them how to live right.
My big question is, how will you carry your groceries from Costco in a bus? I cannot have all these bags in my two hands at the same time in the bus.
Don't worry, the World Economic Forum has a plan for that. You'll have your food delivered if you behave.
That's why.
Because, they were already testing this out in China. Well, in China's smart cities, it kind of goes down that way. You've got your point system. And if automation, robotization, and AI happen to take over jobs, and they might create more jobs. I think that's going to be actually a short-term effect, that the AI will actually create a lot more jobs in the short term. But they'll be creating jobs that are going to be working towards removing the masses from the workforce. So we'll be missing workers probably for the next 10, 15 years. But then after that, who knows what's going to happen? Are we going to be given, if they don't need workers anymore, what's going to happen to the world's population? So I'm going to get off this rant because I can get pretty dark when it comes to this, and I don't want to scare too many people away from the channel, but I do need my occasional rant. So thank you so much, folks, for sticking with me for the rant. That's part of the live experience. You get the real Johnny. You get the Johnny that Marie can't handle most days of the week. Well, I'm allowed, kind of, not really, to let it out on the show. That's what the live here is for. It's our community where you can tell me I'm wrong and why, because just telling me I'm stupid is not a good reflection on your own argumentative and discussion building skills. It's good generally to disagree with someone if you have something to back it with. Having it hurt your feelings or not emotionally feeling comfortable with a topic doesn't make the topic, wrong or racist or, whatever word that gets thrown at people with a differing viewpoint than mainstream media, which is everything's going to be okay, everything's perfect right now, but except for this helicopter chase going down on this stolen car, various distractions like the crap Barbie movie that Marie went to see, and I shouldn't have been. I will say, back your arguments. I didn't see the movie. I can't say that it's crap. I just feel like it's a bit of a distraction. Came out at the same time of a movie that was very much well worth watching. And I'll let Ridgeview plug that, because he's actually the one that turned me on to it, that turned my attention to it. So pedal to the metal. The WB may be very right. It may have been a very good movie if you're talking about having seen the Barbie movie, and that's fine. Maybe I do need to see it and allow my perspective to be opened. And I think part of the learning process, part of being an intelligent human being that actually interacts with their environment, is to be open to sampling things. Certain things you don't need to sample because they're just not going to taste good, or it's not, it goes really truly against your morals and your ethics, I stand up on the bus, and I do let pregnant women sit down, and
You don't take bus
and
anyway.
people who are older than me. Back when I had to take the
Okay.
bus, I've been enjoying the freedom of a vehicle.
Like 20 years ago, more.
Yeah, when I was in school for a little bit. So put pedal to the metal here. Thanks for sticking through this. I appreciate you all. 2024 Ford Bronco build and price. Yes, you can still get a Bronco, and you may have already ordered a Bronco, but you might not have done it the right way. So, scary moment. You might never get your Bronco if it hasn't been ordered properly. And it might be a very long wait if you don't order it at the right dealership. So that's going to be, we're going to intertwine and weave that into our actual build-in price. But Marie, you're in charge of the laptop. Sometimes people leave comments like, what is she doing there? Other times it's, why doesn't, or the complete opposite. They tell me, dude, be quiet, have her talk, which is fair. I prefer to listen to her talk too when she wants to talk. She has a subject she wants to present tonight, so she'll be talking. But she's in charge of the laptop now, and she also checks out what's going on in the chat, so she can take notes, bring the questions back to me, and we try to actually gear the channel towards that. So it's not actually in the photos, it's in the Google Chrome down here.
Perfect.
So there we go. Ford Bronco, build and price. We've got live photos taken. They're freshly taken from today. So some very recent 2023s, the most recent that you can basically get, because one of them has showed up last Friday. So that's fresh off the factory press, we could say. So we've got a good idea of what these look like, what they feel like. We've got our own 2023. And of course, we've owned two 2021s, a very early 2021 production, as well as a late in the year. I think it was a November production, 2021. And it had less errors than our first one, but still some errors. And our current 2023 Ford Bronco still has some errors. Just today, I hopped over a curb, which is great. Those silly roundabouts and they're great, actually. They help reduce traffic. But we're going through one of these roundabouts, better than having a light system. And I hopped up on the curb, and boy, did that window ever rattle. I thought it was going to slap me in the face. But I still love my Bronco. I'd take a slap in the face for a Bronco. It's such a great machine. So the first big question is, really, what do you need to know? What's like the most important information on the Ford Bronco? Well, let's get this right down to it. You need to make sure you order from the right dealership. Step one, shop your dealership. It's great to have used the build and price and know what you're looking for. And maybe in the meantime, we can throw some Bronco photos that I took today to get something nicer in the background. But the main thing to know, and the first thing to know, is, have you ordered from the right dealership? That means that you need to phone around or go in person. That's so much quicker to phone around or go by email. Email, you've got their lie written down. So people are most often less likely to write a lie down than to say it over the phone, because they can say, oh, well, you misunderstood me. So I've been, I can tell you, I was a manager of residences at a university, and I've been lied to a lot. And I pretty much always would see through it, and I'd get the true story of what had actually happened. But better to teach people not to commit crimes and not to break the rules when they're still in school, but when the consequences are pretty low, and to let them think they can get away with that type of behavior and then go out in society and either ruin society or ruin their own lives. So get this written down. I like the whole email process. Ask the dealership how many allotments roughly are you going to get for the year, and how many are already on the list. That right away gives you a good idea of if you'll get a vehicle from them as a 2024 and when. I can tell you right now, if you order from my dealership, you'll probably get your Bronco in about 3 to 4 months, because the list is almost non-existent. So you got to know what dealership to order from. And we also know that we're still going to get allotments. And if we don't get any, we're going to get allotments. And if they're not customer orders, well, then non-customer orders will actually show up. We're still, most of my entire region and actually province, we don't have big lists here, and they're not just going to let a province or an entire state, for example, if you're in a non-off-roading state, a state that's more maybe geared towards environmentally friendly vehicles with less fuel consumption, well, that could be a good place to think that, well, Ford's still going to send them Broncos. They're not going to let a state starve of Broncos. Maybe that's a good state to order from. Maybe you're going to need to order out of state, or maybe you'll just need to order from the dealership that doesn't, have all sorts of internet advertising, TV advertising, maybe that flashy, beautiful looking dealership that attracts a lot of eyes to it. Maybe that's the one that's going to have a list that's far beyond what they're actually going to get for the year. Maybe you need to go for the ugly duckling. Maybe they'll have some Broncos. So that's the first thing you need to do. Now, the second thing you need to do is you need to make sure that your order is confirmed. If your order is not confirmed, the only way you're going to get it, essentially, is if there's pretty much no one left on that wait list who has confirmed an order. Or if the dealership's not confirming any of their orders, they'll get some Broncos, but a whole lot less than if they were confirming their orders. And you've got a dealership that doesn't have any, they haven't signed. When you confirm an order with Ford and you enroll it, you're sending proof, your signature as a dealership to Ford with a price on it. Much more reluctant to cheat the customer, cheat the buyer when the vehicle shows up than when you've sent off paperwork to Ford saying, here's our signature, here's the client's signature, the customer, this is what, this is the pricing. Makes it so that if when the vehicle shows up, you try to oversell it. And if you as a customer kept that copy, please do keep your signed copy. It should be a purchase offer or a lease offer and a build sheet signed by you and them. And there might be a few other contracts, but those are the main big ones. You need to have given your driver's license, and all your details need to be correct. Your address, your name written out correctly, address correct, even, your zip code, postal code if you're in Canada, all that needs to be done correctly. The correct email, make sure everything's perfect, review it, get them to sign it, keep your copy. That's how you can kind of push them against the wall with the sheet in your hand and say, this is the price I'm paying. Of course, if it comes in as a 2025, that's a different story. Then you can expect to get the first available 2025 price. But if you do get pushed to a 2025, they need to reconfirm, redo the whole confirmation process, re-enroll with Ford, meaning get their signature again now for the 2025. Don't just assume because you have the 24 copy that you're safe if you're a carryover. But it is definitely possible to find Broncos that are going to be available. Now, finding some in inventory, we've got, I think, 4 or 5 right now. That's pretty rare. We're pretty lucky. We followed all Ford's rules. We didn't oversell through the last 2 years. We didn't have these, add-ons and markups and all this. So we're blessed right now. We're being rewarded. Just like some dealerships are getting less because they didn't play fair. Of course, they can't give 0 vehicles to a dealership because that probably breaks some rules in dealership contracts with Ford. Remember, dealerships and Ford, different businesses. Almost every manufacturer, the dealerships are separate businesses with legally binding contracts between the manufacturer, whether it's Toyota, Porsche, Jeep, BMW, and the dealer, Ford, Ram, on and on, GM. There's these separate contracts. Now, Ford has actually done the most in regards to rules with bonuses, bonus inventory, and loss of inventory for, not being good to customers. They've done, I think, the most out of anyone on the market. However, they can't just tell a dealership, we're giving you no vehicles. Can't work that way, but they're definitely giving a lot less. And dealerships that play by the rules get a whole lot more, and it's actually quite great. We've got a lot of Broncos. So the third question we got to ask ourselves when we're doing a build-in price is, what Bronco do we actually build in price? You know, we've got a whole bunch here at the dealership, and it's complicated and it's confusing. You've got a beautiful Badlands. Why not get a Badlands? Now for 2024, all the Broncos, as sort of like the base interior, the standard interior is marine grade vinyl. There's no longer a base model. There's Big Bend as the first model. It also has marine grade vinyl. And the floor, it's got, you know, the rubberized floors. Marie, how did you feel about marine grade vinyl?
I love it. I love it so much. It's easy with the dust. You're not afraid to have water on it if you let the top open.
A little cold in the winter, so we'd recommend heated seats.
But it will be the same as the leather if it for the cold. So
Yep.
I prefer the material that it's indestructible, if I could say that.
It's not completely indestructible, but it's stained.
The leather.
Yeah, the leather is a skin, right? So leather drinks. And actually we call it the leather interior, but it's leather and vinyl for the leather ones. But there are definitely parts where you've got leather, it's a skin, it can drink, and once you get a stain in there, it can be tough getting it out. I had a stain, or it wasn't really a stain, it was kind of just liquid gunk that had dried into the seat. And I'm lucky it wasn't a color that stains, because that was really tough to get out. And I worked on it, and I need to go back. I'm not even sure if I got it out of the leather.
Yeah.
But I worked it for like 20 minutes in the heat.
And like Marine Vet said, it's dog friendly when you have marine
Very
grade.
very dog friendly.
You're not afraid for the dust, the scratch of the little nails. So yeah, I was loving going to Florida with that material, with the dogs.
Now, a lot of people, I think, jump on the Sasquatch bandwagon or the Sasquatch train, whatever you want to call it. And, you know, at first, the original orders, a lot of wild track orders, because a lot of people figured, well, that's the biggest one, the baddest one. Well, I'd actually argue that a Badlands Sasquatch is the most off-road, biggest, baddest model. And it comes out once you get a 2.7 liter, a V6, twin turbo, incredible engine. You've got 315 horsepower, 335 if you run it on high octane. 415 pound-feet of torque. Some people have chipped that with the Ford Performance chip, so that, you know, you're pretty much okay with, well, if your check engine light comes on, good luck. But if your engine breaks, well, the chip's not supposed to cause the engine to break, so you should still be good on warranty. I was talking with a parts rep just today and asked him the question, and he did give me the go-ahead to buy the 2.7 liter. So I only have one person left to the 2.7 liter tuning chips. I only have one person left to convince. But no matter what Bronco you get, don't get the impression as if you don't get a Sasquatch, you have a small Bronco. We can see right here in the background, we've got an F-150 and a Ford Bronco. And this is the Badlands. This isn't Sasquatch. It's just Badlands. And just, of course, it's not the smallest. It's not a Big Bend with just standard tires. Your Badlands, you're getting BF Goodrich KO2 tires that we have enjoyed in both summer conditions and winter. Those tires we've driven on the beach. We've driven on the beach in North Carolina. In coldish weather, we've driven it on the beach in Florida with extremely hot weather. And we've driven it through 2 winters. And it was fantastic. We love the BF Goodrich KO2s in the snow as well as in the sand. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you, for the marine grade vinyl, same thing is true. Same thing is true. That's if you keep the windows on a Bronco are tinted. If you keep them closed, you're never going to burn yourself. We never got burnt hanging out in Florida for 2 weeks. One shot, 10 days, and the other shot. We never burnt ourselves. Of course, if you leave your top open and you leave and you come back a few hours later, yes, you're going to get burnt, but soft top, super quick and easy to close the top. And I get a lot of comments, people saying, no, telling us the soft top is bad for winter climates. Well, we have a very winter climate, and the soft top, yes, our first 2021 Bronco on the side, if we could push, kind of get our hand out and have the hand, you know, go out of the top. So we're in the vehicle, and I tested it. I didn't think it would be true. I was actually driving back from Florida up north, and I'm like, I wonder how, you know, how does, you know, could the wind, if we ran into a snowstorm going to the side of the top, could snow come in? And I'm like, probably not. And I put my hand right through by wiggling it through. I tried that with our new 23 top. Couldn't do it. I was like, I'd have to really, really force, but it's really much tighter. It's a much better made top, better ribbing so you don't get wet when you open the windows. There are a lot of small improvements on the 2023, and you'll see that carry over to 2024. I'm actually very impressed with our 2023 Bronco. Yes, the window still wants to slap me in the face, but we now have Ford listened to the customer base. We've got in the back, if you get a soft top, we got the wiring. Because right now it looks like Ford's just not building hard tops in the last notes that I saw. Of course, I was on holidays last week, so I didn't get the notes from last week. And Ford didn't come out with the scheduling notes for this week where I could have seen if they're finally doing hard tops. On the long run, I don't think it's going to be much of a problem getting a hard top in 2024, but we really do prefer we do prefer the soft top. Now, no matter what Bronco you get, they're all pretty big. The Badlands, misconception, you don't have to go Sasquatch. Look at that compared to an F-150. That's big. Let's look at a few other instances. We've got, maybe if we have time, we'll talk a little bit of Ford Maverick talk. But you see right there, comparing, you've got the red F-150 on the side. That's just the Badlands. I think the Badlands is an incredible purchase. Marie, I think you already know what your favorite model is.
Yeah, it was a Badlands, but now that we have the black glossy grille on the Wild Track, yeah, I like it a lot. Because the Badlands, it was only a gray grille. Yep. But overall, I love the mags of the Badlands. I love the look. It looks, like you said, even if it's not Sasquatch, it looks big. It's not a small Bronco. It's more when I saw was it the Black Diamond or the Big Ben? I don't remember. At the dealer, it was smaller.
The Big Bend. You saw a Big Bend, and yeah, it definitely looked smaller. You've also seen an Outer Banks that wasn't Sasquatch. Looked smaller, but there you've got a comparison side by side. A Badlands beside a Wild Track. Now, a huge congratulations to Krista Pickens from Buckle Up Buttercup, because now they're selling Bronco parts. They've got their own warehouse, so I'm really happy for them. Life is blessing them, so I'm really happy for that family. You can get a grill through them. They sell grills. I haven't checked at the parts department, but I know on F-150s, Ford will sell you the OEM grills. A lot of people buy the OEM Ford F-150 Raptor grill from the parts department at Ford stores and throw it on their F-150s. So you could throw on a Wild Track front grill on the Badlands. So Krista Pickens there, she's selling the front bumpers, she's selling front grills. It looks like she's selling pretty much everything for the 6th gen Bronco. So really good on her. Great to see that happen. So there's your Sasquatch package. And yeah, it's a monster. It is definitely a monster. It's got 35-inch tires. Some people feel like that's not quite enough. And I clearly shouldn't be doing the photos, so I'm going to let you get back to the photos there. But one thing to keep in mind, we just switched over to it. No matter what Bronco you get, they're all well equipped, and you don't want to lose out on money. So 2 ways to really truly see the equipment on your Bronco. Download the order guide or head over to FordBuild.com, the build and price website that we're going to take you in just a moment. But a lot of people get lost in there. A lot of people get fooled in there, which we've shown in our build and prices before. It's easy to get lost on the website. Now, it's done a lot better than Jeep's website. Jeep's website is pretty awful because they actually, they're kind of like a drug dealer. You know, they're like, hey, try this. Hey, it's not much. Yeah, they don't tell you the actual cost of having a cocaine addiction over the period of a year or two. They're just like, hey, just try a little bit. It's your first shot's free. Well, the Jeep website build and price is like that. They're like, hey, this is like $4 a week. You know, they're calculating that almost on 15 years. It's ridiculous. So they want to hide the true cost of things. But if you want to know the true equipment, head over to the order guide. So you've got the 2024 major product feature changes at the beginning. But you need to go down to the first model and check out standard features. So you scroll down to the third, let's say the third page here, and you've got the 2024 Bronco Big Bend. So that's now your base model, and you can read up all on it. You know, we can see on the right side, or you'll have trouble seeing that, but marine grade vinyl bucket seats. There's your proof right there. So you don't just have to give people confidence because you've gone on a Reddit or, you know, subreddit or whatever it may be, a forum, and they're telling you, oh, this is how it is. You can see it. The order guide is never wrong. It can change. It can be updated. It can be, you know, have changes even occur within a year. Ford can say, we're going to give everyone a subwoofer, you know, Oprah style. Look underneath your seat. It's a subwoofer. It's a better sound system. And then, you know, and they're like, well, no, actually, we can't do that. And even some Lincolns won't even come with subwoofers. So sorry. The intention was nice. They've given us a lot of extra stuff from our over the years complaining. But the main thing is you want to know probably, is the technology enough? So the first thing is, this is great. You can see it radon, proof, order guide, Ford Copilot 360 technology. You get auto high beam headlamps. That means of course you get day and night, the automatic day and night headlights, but at night your high beams and your low beams are gonna control themselves. You've got hill start assist, so you don't roll back on a hill. You've got post collision braking. That means if you hit something, maybe you've passed out after hitting something, your vehicle's gonna brake. It's not just gonna keep rolling down into, you know, the lane that has the oncoming traffic and have a head on. You've got pre-collision assist with automatic emergency braking, with pedestrian detection, with forward collision warning, and dynamic brake support, meaning they're going to prep the brakes for you, and worst case scenario, they'll even do some braking for you. You've got your rear view camera with backup assist grid lines. Very, very good stuff. Hill descent control. And that is standard on the 7-speed transmission only. So hill descent control button standard, but only on the manual. I think the manual is a great option. I think it's very good, but most people aren't going towards that. I'm sorry, I've got bad habits. I'm controlling the laptop when Marie is signed up for that. So Marie, do you want to take us over to the building price?
Yes.
So I know I'm spending more of my money with that Wild Track, and we've got those, you know, we've got Badlands on site as well as Wild Track, because my dealership's idea is that those are really the two hot models. There's about $6,000-$7,000 difference between them. So $73,000 for the Badlands, $73,895 Canadian. Our Wild Track was $83,000, basically a $10,000 difference, but our Wild Track has a few add-ons that generally you're going to be paying $6,000 or $7,000. The Big Bend is good. There's nothing wrong with the Big Bend. It starts at $39,130, but don't be fooled. That is before transport and destination. So if already you don't like that price, maybe we need to think of another vehicle, because the price does add up quickly. You know, if we go over to four-door, you can see the price difference here. $39,130. You hit it up to four-door, $39,870. Yes, the prices on the Broncos have gone up, but boy, in 2021 is a huge price increase going over to the four-door. So Ford is very eager to build four-doors. They're not boosting the price by, what was it, about $3,500 back in 2021. So if we start our build on the Big Bend, personally, I wouldn't go for the Big Bend. In Canada, we cannot have the signature LED lights, which I just like. I'm not a fan of this grill. Marie, you've got a lot more style than me. I couldn't dress myself properly if it wasn't for your help. I've memorized what combos work. How do you find the look on a Big Bend?
How can I say that? For sure, it's better to have a Bronco than not having a Bronco.
Well said.
But yeah, I guess it's, you see the grill, the big holes in it. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of the almost Tilly's painted in black on it. So yeah, you see it's a base model, but it does the job. If you want a Bronco, it's better that than something else. But yeah, I guess we used to other kinds, because the Badlands, Outer Banks, all of these are pretty similar, but this one is, how can I say that? It's a little bit far from the other ones.
I'd say if I park a Big Ben Bronco beside any other vehicle, I'm going to tell myself, wow, am I ever happy that I got this vehicle? Unless it's a Jeep Rubicon. The Jeep Rubicon looks, almost beefier, but it's got that small nose. So I'd still get this and save a lot of money. But the Big Ben's not bad, and it leaves room for modification. Maybe you want to throw on some bigger tires. With just a 2-inch lift kit, you can throw on bigger tires. Yes, there'll be a little more strain to everything suspension, but it'll get the job done. Maybe you don't want to go take 2-3 foot jumps in a field, which is what the Wild Track's pretty much made for. It's made for those whoops. It's made to just blast through the desert and really be I can't wait to stick it in the farmer's field once the fields are torn up and they need a little patting down. And just remember, some modifications aren't expensive. Grills on these vehicles, they're not that bad. And with time, they'll probably, the price will always kind of maybe stay the same as volume sales take effect. But the grills really aren't that bad. Mags do get costly, and if you're paying cash, YouTube Spotter's Guide made a really good point. It's not about being cheap. $50,000 vehicle is a lot of money, but let's say we're to take most people take a 2.7. Krista Pickens had a 2.3, and no surprise, she's running a 2.7 now. Most people take the automatic, and the Big Ben, you can't have the 2.7 liter, so don't be fooled there. If your dealership says, yeah, we've got a 2.7 liter Big Ben on order for you, they don't have anything on order for you. It doesn't exist. And one major thing is, if you Sasquatch a Big Ben, if you're paying cash, yes, you'll feel a difference. Now, of course, no matter what, we suggest mid-package, because who doesn't want, and at any time, you can just click over here, clicking on the little eye on the website. You click on the little eye here on the corner where it says mid-package, and you'll get a full description. So that one won't get bigger, but you can, of course, always compare. You can go swipe right or click on the left arrow to go back to the regular package, 221A, and you can ask yourself, what's listed there right here? Does that, tickle your fancy? Is it enough? Are you happy? Or, you're maybe thinking, oh, there's stuff missing. Well, make sure to click down, exterior features, a whole list pops up. Then go to interior features, a whole list pops up. And when it comes down to it, a Big Ben Bronco without anything on it is a fantastic machine. It's very, very well equipped. It will do the job. If you live in a cold climate, will you miss the heated seats? Yes. Will you maybe find it less fun to have to dig around for your keys to unlock the doors? Maybe. And that's why I recommend, for anyone in a colder climate, I highly recommend the mid-package. I think that's the sweet spot. And now all Ford Broncos come with a 12-inch screen, which previously a lot of people were getting, the higher equipped Broncos. The big thing was they wanted a 12-inch screen and a better sound system. But our 2023 Wild Track, don't be fooled, folks. You don't have to get a Lux package. I'm sorry, I'm not going to speak for you. That's not fair. You're answering people in the chat, and I think that's fantastic. But I'm happy with the current sound system. I'm an old sub guy, and I like to shake the windows a little. I maybe want a little more of a thump to it. But the Bang & Olufsen isn't going to add a ton of thump. The Bang & Olufsen is the sound system that comes with the Lux package. I'd just take mid, 12-inch touchscreen, and if ever you feel I'm wrong, add in a sub. But I feel there's enough, almost enough thump. I'm happy. I'm not amazed, but I'm happy because now the speakers they've put in the front of the vehicle, they're a little better up top, and they're a whole lot better at the bottom. Previously, I'm convinced we didn't have They're either really bad speakers by our feet, or there were none. But now it's good. It'll shake your pants. You'll feel the bass against your legs. I really like those speakers down there. How do you feel about the 23 speakers?
Very better than the 2021 Broncos that we had. It's a huge difference.
Yeah.
And for just a normal use, I guess we don't need more. I remember in my Maverick, the speakers were not that good as the Bronco. So
Okay. Yeah, our 23 Bronco speakers are better than the Maverick speakers. And previously, for our 21, we were kind of disappointed disappointed and happy because we had a Maverick on order, but the Mavericks had better speakers than the Bronco. And that was frustrating at the price that these Broncos cost. Well, Ford listened. They've thrown in better speakers. What you get with a mid-package is two-door intelligent access with lock and unlock. So that two-door intelligent access means just the driver and the passenger. So if you have a four-door, those back doors, nada. But you do get it on the third door, the back. Actually, that says two-door, and I believe it's actually really only the two front, because we have actually not a mid-package. We have what was the high package. Now, there is no high package anymore, but we've got three. We've got the two in the front and the back handle. But here it says, intelligent access will also lock and unlock swing gate. This is why the Build and Price website is important, because most salespeople, who perfectly memorizes all of this, especially when you consider it's changing back and forth. So you got to jump in the order guide. And sometimes the website is wrong. That's why I like doing the website for the photos, for playing around with the build and the price. But the order guide is where you really know, you can really double check the must-haves, double check to make sure that they're in the order guide. Dual zone electronic automatic temperature control. That's important because when I drive, I'll fall asleep on heat. And
that's true.
If we only had one temperature, it would be cold. So as a driver, I don't fall asleep. But then we're not going to have a good vacation, or wherever we're trying to get, we're not going to show up rested, happy, or well, because you will complain the entire time.
That, you were the type of guy who always opened the windows during the winter.
Yeah, I drove with the window open about 4 inches in the middle of winter. Yeah, I take cold showers. They're great. Good for testosterone levels. Ambient footwell lighting, auto dimming rear view mirror, front row heated seats. That's a big one. I would not go without front row heated seats. If you have a significant other in your life and it's a woman, don't freeze them up. Some women maybe I've never met a woman that's like, I really like, really cold showers and going out in cold weather with
on a cube of glass.
Yeah, most of
ice. Sorry.
Yeah. So we've got, there's a whole list there. The remote start system on the key. Don't get mid-package just for that, because you have it with your Ford Pass on your phone. You've got reverse sensing system, so that could save you from an accident. But I like the cross traffic, the transversal alert that we've got on the high package, because it's already saved me from 2 accidents, so I think that's pretty huge. And it's not on that mid package. You've got the Ford Copilot 360, and then you're like, hey, what is the Ford Copilot 360? Well, that's where the order guide is gonna list it out. I already read it off about 7 minutes ago, because I knew we'd get to this point where it's like, well, what is this Copilot 360? Do I need it? And then, there's different levels of Copilot, because Ford's decided to name everything basically Ford Copilot 360, even though there's different levels. So we'll get to that in just a moment. And you get connected navigation, 1 year subscription free. So that means 1 year of smart navigation. But don't be fooled. That doesn't mean after 1 year you get 0 navigation. It's just 1 year of smart navigation. So you've got predictive destinations and route guidance and one box search. So basically just think of it as the vehicle has navigation, but after a year it won't be smart navigation anymore. It doesn't mean it's going to be dumb navigation, telling you to absolutely turn right and you're looking and it's a cliff. We went up Mount Washington and the navigation wasn't trying to tell us to drive off the cliff. So
the only times we had trouble with navigation, I guess it was with Google Map, and he was letting us, he said, go off the highway just to come back and have the toll free.
Yeah.
All the time, there's a toll free. He wants us to take it.
And, you know, I love these little pop-ups that you can click on. I just clicked on safety, and you can see right there that we've got, of course, advanced track. That's a fantastic system. All Broncos up to 16 times per second can change how much power it sends to the wheels. Now it's better with the 4A systems that I'll get to in a minute. That means you're getting a higher trim than this or the Sasquatch. But when you've got the 4 automatic, it's up to 16 times per second. Each wheel individually works to keep you from spinning out. So it's not just a simple playing with the brakes to control your slide. It's actually playing with the acceleration in the wheels and, of course, the brakes so that you just don't slide altogether. It also is fun for doing, let's say, some mild drifting in the snow, but it helps you not, you know, completely overdo it and lose control. You know, in the past of the blue one, I was in a little half circle. I was drifting that half circle, and even if I had the foot to the floor, was preventing from all the torque actually going to the wheels, because then I would have, you know, in mid-circle or at some point would have just spun out of control and maybe slid into the little lake or pond that was back there. So it's great. You can see what's going on there, and you can also see with safety that there are LED lights on all the vehicles, and that is a safety feature. Seeing well at night is so important. But the Big Bend, I like it. But let's just look at what type of price we have. You know, we don't have the 2.7 liter. And here's the big thing. If you're going to lease, you're going to find out that, okay, well, it's not showing the leases, but I've done this research in 2021, in 2022, 2023. And when you lease, there's not a huge difference in price. You know, we're originally looking at, well, what if I get a Black Diamond versus a Badlands? And there was like $80 a month difference. The resale value on my Badlands, I had it for 14 months, so I spent $1,100 more on that Badlands, and I sold it for a lot more. So I think if you're gonna lease, you can allow yourself to consider more equipment if you're comfortable with the monthly payment. Make sure you're comfortable with the monthly payment. So important. Now, of course, if you're in a position where you're choosing between buying a Big Bend cash or leasing a fully equipped model, well, with today's interest rates, buy the less equipped model cash. And when you've got a little more cash, if ever you feel that you don't have a big enough Bronco, well, then add the lift kit, add the bigger tires. You can even swap the suspension. Mind you, if you go with the Fox suspension, like this Haas 3.0 style on the Wild Track, that suspension will cost a small fortune. You're going to pay about $6,000 for it. It is not cheap, but, you know, purchase here, if you go 72 months with the cash down, they're suggesting we're looking at $705 per month. And if we Sasquatch, that's where the price really jumps up. You click the little eye, it'll tell you all about the Sasquatch. Of course, you go into the advanced 4x4, so that's the 4A I was talking about, with automatic on-demand engagement. That means, let's say in the summer, if you want to keep your 4x4 on, or in the winter, you're driving, that's a bit of snow, a bit of ice, but also some dry asphalt in places. Well, if you're in 4x4 mode and you go to turn at slow speeds, you're going to mark up the pavement and it's going to hop the back end of the vehicle. It's not going to be an enjoyable experience, but Sasquatch is $8,660. In between modifying and not having all those parts warranted and coming, basically, you know, you're not gonna, if you save money, it's not gonna be a ton and it won't be warranted. So if you're gonna modify it all the way up to basically a Sasquatch, just get the Sasquatch right away. So we're at 707 if my memory is correct. What would, if we hit that calculator up there, because I'm going to let you take over, 72 months, 807 on purchase. No, we'll keep the down payment. We had it there before. So we went from 707 without a Sasquatch package to 807 with the Sasquatch package. So at $100 a month, this is why I ended up getting, every time I got, you know, a bigger Bronco, because I'm like, well, $100 a month. And I'm never going to be in a position where I'm thinking, oh, I really should buy mags and, you know, take out the credit card or pay cash, whatever it may be. But I won't be paying $4,000 down to have some really gnarly mags and tires when it's $100 a month. I'd much rather pay $100 a month and actually leave my money invested and hope it returns me, 15, 20% per year, or lose 15, 20% per year. But I'd rather gamble my money, I guess, than to pay cash and avoid the interest rates. But also, in 2021, the interest rates were considerably lower. Because what kind of interest rate are we looking at that? You're a little closer, maybe you can see it.
The
Interest rate,
it is 7%.
7% in the States, and I think it's at 7.99 here in Canada, but it can vary from one month to another. But because these are high demand, low supply vehicles, we haven't had any rebates on them yet, and I wouldn't expect any rebates on them anytime soon. However, demand versus supply's gone considerably up. Demand's gone down a little. I certainly wouldn't pay over MSRP for one of these. Don't be fooled. If a dealer's trying to tell you, oh no, they're impossible to get, you have to pay this huge markup. No, just order one from a dealership that's going to, and you might even find one in inventory at MSRP. We have 5 at MSRP. They're all at MSRP. Someone wants them and you live in Canada, give us a call. I'll take care of you. Now, of course, we didn't throw on the hitch. We won't do that because those are all relative preferences. Would you Sasquatch a Big Ben? I guess it comes down to price. So let's check out. We're at $807 per month. Now, if we head over to a Black Diamond, is a fantastic option. You've got your locking diff in the back. It is a great option if you want to do a bit of off-roading. It's not coming out off with what Marie calls, rims or the steelies. Marie's not a fan of steelies. I don't mind them. But I think that is a nice vehicle. And you can have the 2.7. But right off, if we look at price and, these tires, they're going to be... in the past, I've said I'd get the answer back to you. Well, just today I checked. Yes, a Black Diamond comes with tires that are year-round. Even Quebec, we're pretty strict and we require a real winter tire. This counts as a real winter tire, so you can legally drive them, and they'll go pretty good in the snow. They'll go very well in the mud. It's a true all-terrain tire. It's got the 3-peak snowflake rating. I think it's a fantastic option. Grill, you got your black grill, but it's not glossy. You can always change and modify the grill. But let's see what we're looking at for price. 72 months, we're at $695. So I think that's a pretty darn good option if you want to do some, what many would consider pretty heavy off-roading. You can get some pretty heavy off-roading in, enough to scare you. But I would definitely get the 2.7 liter. The 2.3 liter is a good engine. It's a reliable engine. The Ford F1, the Ford Ranger has been running it. The Ford Explorers have been running it. Most people, almost everyone will not be disappointed in any way. It's better. I think it's better than pretty much any non-turboed V6 out there. It's just a 2.7 liter. I find, on an F-150, you take a 2.7 liter twin turbo V6 and I drive it. And then I go drive a 5 liter. And I feel like I have a little bit more fun driving the 2.7 liter because the power kicks in at really low RPM. It's a blast. But the 2.3 liter, it's pretty fast. It's impressive. And actually, I drove it on a Badlands that wasn't Sasquatch. And I was like, this has got to be a 2.7 liter. And I popped the hood. I'm like, this is a 2.3 liter. The bigger tire you have, the less you're going to have that feeling of, oh man, this has got instant torque. This is taking off. This is fast. The higher you lift a vehicle, and of course, as you lift a vehicle higher, you put bigger tires on, the less you're going to get out of your motor, we could say. And the heavier the vehicle, of course, because power to weight ratio is extremely important with how you feel power. Color? What color would you take here?
I love the bright color on the Bronco. It needs to pop.
Most vehicles don't do bright colors well. Most vehicles do bright colors pretty badly, but the Bronco's the type of vehicle that really does bright colors well.
Yeah, I love the blue, the red, the green. That's all good.
Well, the red that we've got now is hot pepper,
Yeah.
red metallic tinted clear coat. It looks okay on the internet, but it's awesome in person. You actually saw a
In
Maverick.
the sun.
Yeah, you saw a Maverick in this week going down the street, and you almost broke your neck. You turned your head so
was
quick,
like,
and you're like,
"What?"
"Oh, check out that Maverick! It's so beautiful!" And I was like, "I've been telling you it's beautiful, and I've been telling you if you see it in person, I bet you'll love it." And I hadn't said that in maybe a month, or even a little bit more than a month, and there you're saying it. You're like, you're telling me you
Yeah.
got to look at this. I'm like, "Yes, dear, I know. I told you about that."
And at the Bronco off rodeo, we saw a red pepper Bronco too. It was looking great. So shiny color in the sun, like the eruption green. It's almost the same, but in red. So yeah.
And it
I
does
love
shine
that.
in the sun because it's metallic.
Yeah.
Now the race red doesn't shine in the sun, but if you wax this well, it pops. Dave and Kelly from All Terrain Nation have, I guess, a Mustang and a Bronco this color, and it is pretty awesome. It looks really good. Those two cars parked beside each other. Wow. So congratulations to them. You've got one good-looking yard. Now, that's the green. Of course, we've got a green Wild Track. We love the color, but I think the deal of the century, and you're gonna love your resale value if you get a 2.7 liter. It's pretty darn good. Of course, it forces the 10-speed transmission. Now, the 7-speed is a fantastic transmission with a crawl gear, but the 10-speed is incredible. You got your plus minus on the shifter. Unfortunately, it'd be great if it was paddle shifter, but they've reserved that for the Bronco Raptor, which good luck getting one. Super rare. Most dealerships will good luck. If I wanted a Bronco Raptor, I'm looking probably at about 4 years. 4 years to get one. But I found two in inventory. So my region, not as hot on Broncos. If you shop around, maybe you'll find a region where Broncos aren't as hot.
Yeah.
They were asking, of course, like 30,000 over MSRP, but now one dealership has actually had it for 2 months, and they're down to they're at
get rid of.
MSRP plus 3,000.
Oh.
If I
that
didn't
bad.
have the Lightning, and if I didn't have the Bronco, and I just had, I was trading in my 22 Mustang like I did earlier this spring, then yeah, I probably would just get one Raptor.
I guess
And
here
that's
in
it.
Quebec, correct me if I'm wrong, people are not that much into Raptor than
They
in
want
USA.
we're super EV. People want fuel economy. People
are
want
cheap.
electric vehicles. Cheap or nerdy or
And I know in USA they love
misinformed
big
about
cars. Here it's not the same. Here people don't love big cars that much. So
And
maybe that's why.
And EVs here actually are pretty good for the environment because there's the negative impact of creating it, but then our electricity is now kind of, you could say, the environmental damage is already done. So now it's kind of really clean energy, very, very clean energy. It's hydroelectric. But, I don't think we have it in us to responsibly recycle all these batteries. I think we're going towards a far worse catastrophe than what carbon is currently maybe doing to the environment. I think batteries, if we don't recycle them properly, we're looking at,
A disaster.
destroying millions of acres of land for I don't know if I won't say forever, but for more than hundreds of years, probably thousands of years. So I don't think that, I don't have faith. I just don't have faith. But adding the 2.7 liter, if you already wanted a 10-speed automatic transmission, is fantastic at $2,145. That is a steal of a deal. You look at Audi, Porsche, Mercedes, BMW, when you add, 100 pound-feet of torque and, basically, not as nearly as much horsepower, but the torque you do really feel 100 pound-feet of torque. There's an incredible feeling to adding an extra 100 pound-feet of torque. You hit the pedal and you'll know there's an extra 100 pound-feet of torque. Well, usually car makers like to charge you 10 grand for that type of fun. So that is really cool. Now, what model would we get? Well, I don't know. I think if I had to order all over again, I'd almost be tempted to
difficult.
just, save the money. now that I think the economy is going to be doing less well in a year from now. I'd almost be tempted to save the money, get the Badlands, keep it on the BF Goodrich KO2 tires, drive them year round,
And just switch the grill.
and just switch the grill. I think that's, money wise, I think that makes the most sense. And let's just compare here. We get a 2.7 liter engine. I don't want a manual because I want you to be able to drive the vehicle. I spend 1 week driving the Lightning. Then Marie I spend 1 week driving the Bronco, meaning Marie gets to drive a Lightning 1 week and then a Bronco the other week. Because when you look at the price difference, of course, the down payment's gone up a little, but $871 per month. If I'm paying cash, this would 100% be your best money spent. Get a Badlands with a 2.7 liter if you're paying cash. When you're looking at the monthly, $871. That Big Ben was $707 per month. For $170 a month, I will avoid going and eating out at the restaurant. I will avoid a lot of things to get more vehicle, and I feel like that is more vehicle. A Badlands 2.7 liter, I think, is the sweet spot. I think it's spending your money in the most wise way. And remember, you get the Sasquatch suspension on this. So you get a suspension that's made to go through the whoops, to go crawl off-road. And the main thing is you get a stabilizer bar disconnect with this model.
But I have a question for
It's
you.
a rock
You
crawler.
said you will avoid buying things to have a bad lens. Would you avoid buying steaks to have a bad lens?
No. That's the base of the pyramid.
Don't touch my steak.
Yeah, that's the base. That's where it starts. The happiness level.
You will sacrifice a lot of stuff, but not that.
Having enough creatine in the system, having enough testosterone in the system, feeling healthy, sleeping well. I need to eat well. The mental is so much better when you eat well. So no, the steaks are the base. If it came
You
down
don't want to be depressed in your bad lens.
exactly. So if it came down to it, steaks or no steaks. If I couldn't for the $170, if it means no more steaks, I'm obviously getting, and actually I get the Black Diamond, because the Black Diamond, I think you can do some off-roading with it. You can have a lot of fun with it.
Looks great too.
But for the difference, I get it, and I want the 2.7 liter, so that axes the Big Ben out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I get a Black Diamond if it means I lose the stakes. And when the economy is good and the stocks are going well, and especially if I'm going to lease, because if we look at the Badlands that we built there with the 2.7, and we can't look at the lease. I'm sorry, but we're at 871, correct? So we're 871. Let's now check out a Wild Track. Wild Track here, and this is where things get really complicated. You go to a Wild Track, it's Sasquatch, it comes with the 10-speed automatic transmission, fantastic transmission, some issues with the 10 speeds earlier on, like 2018, 2019, 2020. Some of them would, not be sure what gear to go in when it was mostly all problems at low speeds, and did not affect all transmissions. Some transmissions, when they were cold, would be taking off and be like, do I go in the second, third, or fourth? I'm not sure. Let's go into third. Or let's go into fourth. Oh, no, I was wrong. Let's go into third. So there's a bit of that indecisiveness. If you have a transmission like that on an F-150, let's say, or a Mustang, it can be reprogrammed. This can be worked out. And that's great because GM, with their 8 and 10 speed issues, they just go, no, that's normal. Go, leave us alone. Don't bother us. Ford spent money getting a new program and making it available. Yes, All-Terrain Nation, howdy, right on. We're just talking about how we love your Mustang and love the color of your Bronco. We think that you've got one awesome yard over there. Very, very impressed. Winston would take a ride in your Bronco anytime if you'd have him. I know he's not the most masculine. He doesn't maybe give off the most masculine impression, but
he loves his Bronco ride.
He loves his Bronco rides, and how I see it is I don't need a big dog to protect me. I'm okay protecting my little dog. And if anyone has a problem with it, well, no one's armed in Canada. So Yeah, yeah, jokes on them if they want to make a fuss. So the 2.7 liter Wild Track, you get down to it, and 959. The Badlands was 871. The Big Ben with the Sasquatch. So, it's always coming down to a few $100s per month. But the Wild Track is starting to get expensive, and that's where it's like, yeah, the Badlands is right, that happy medium, great look, good looking mag, great tires. It's your favorite. You've told me before it's your favorite mag.
Yeah. That's my favorite mag, but we love the grill of the Wild Track, the front grill.
If I'm paying cash, it's a Black Diamond. If I'm making payments, it's a really tough choice between a Badlands at 871 or a Wild Track at 959. And if you're making payments, no matter what, that 7% interest rate is high. So I'd probably be tempted to, just try to throw on more cash onto the Wild Track. But boy, does it ever look good. It's best looking grill, best looking mags. It's the one model where I know I won't go out and spend $4,000 on tires and mags. It's the one model I know I won't go and spend $6,500 on suspension. It's the one model that I know that the only thing I'll think about modifying, Howdy 4 high, 4 low, maybe you'll like this one. You don't need to spend $1,000 on a muffler system, on an exhaust system on these Broncos if you want to make more noise. I think the best solution is the second cheapest solution. The cheapest solution is you take a drill and you drill into your muffler and it will sound louder. I've done that before, and Marie said I was a child and I needed to grow up. You said, what the fudge, grow up. Pretty much what you said, right? I'm not making this up.
Not in that words, but yeah. It's
I shopped for it. I shopped for your answer. I was like, oh, what do you think? Isn't this great? And then you told me what the fudge. If I had not asked you, you would have been really polite and sweet and not said anything and let me play around with my toys. That is the cheapest solution. It's free. The drill bit won't even break, so it's not even a $6 drill bit. It's free. I did that on a V6 Mustang because I was like, you know what? It's a V6 Mustang. If I don't like it, I'll just change the mufflers or sell the vehicle.
Like I always said, do we really need that?
Here's the best option. $250 for the parts, Canadian, so less in US dollars, about $200 US. You can have right up on your auxiliary switches, or with a remote, you can have cutout valves. The Amazon ones are called, I don't like the name, they're called Evil exhaust cutouts by the brand, I guess, Evil, but there's different companies. But you can have it on an auxiliary switch, and you can have your straight, normal, healthy, pretty quiet exhaust. Unless you're hard on the pedal, it's pretty quiet. You can have that exhaust. You can have the drive-in at 11 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night into the neighborhood exhaust. You won't have the, what do they call them? We don't have them here in Canada, but the house committees, the Home Buyers Association. You won't have the Home Buyers Association giving you a fine.
I love the idea of the switch.
Yeah, it's cool.
Because in the Mustang, you could put it on track mode and do more noise, but you can always go on a lowest mode that doesn't do that much sound. Like you said, for the neighbors. I love that idea of a switch.
4 high, 4 low, thank you. It's Homeowners Association and Marine Vet. Yes, my dad did show me how to put on the bike spokes, the playing cards, so they go, or the plastic bottle. You could put the plastic bottle and set up on a bike. And I liked having a bit louder of a bike. I did it once, and then I went back to my quiet bike. But anywho.
Yeah, and what's my idea for the Bronco and the other cars? I always said, just record the sound and listen to it in the radio.
Yeah, you've offered to make sound sitting beside me, but no. You never get the timing right. You make the sound when I'm not even on the pedal. So
it's like putting cards in the
two things
bike.
You can do. Great accessory. Throw on your active exhaust. You kind of call it, it's kind of like Ford's active exhaust. You throw it on the auxiliary switch. You'll also have a remote, and you can open up the exhaust before the mufflers. You could even do it before the catalytic converters, but then you're really going to be polluting. I don't recommend that, and it's going to be too loud. I'd put it just right before the muffler for off-road legal use only, because it's illegal on the main roads. But you know, wherever you happen to hit that switch, I've listened to videos. The sound is actually pretty great. Love the sound. I'm very tempted to do it on the Porsche 911, but I'm also planning on selling the Porsche 911 in spring and maybe buying another Porsche 911. So, you know, come this time of year, because in Canada, that when winter's coming, the prices drop on them by like, you'll always find someone. That's when, you know, in spring, the Porsche I got now would have been $34,000. And I got it for a deal, needing a little bit of work, but we'll talk about that maybe after this episode. But the Wild Track is the model where you really don't have to modify anything other than really minor stuff that doesn't cost anything. Like we just threw on, we'll have an episode on this. So hit that bell notification, thumbs up, subscribe, and bell notification, not to miss out. But we threw on little grab handles. We also throw on an artificial blow-off valve. You don't have to spend $300-400 on a blow-off valve if you like that blow-off sound. We got a blow-off adapter. It was like $70-ish. It's an 21 off-road. Installed it. It's great. I let on the gas quickly. I let it go quickly. Or later on, if you just let go quickly, it, you know, has the blow-off sound. So I'm having a lot of fun. Hopefully the neighbors will still wave to me and say hi and not give me dirty looks. But it's cool, and it didn't cost that much, you know, $70. So the Wild Track is the one model where I'm convinced that I'm not going to accidentally drop 10 grand into it or sell it too early and maybe have bad resale. Mind you, resale on Broncos has been good. I think it's a great vehicle to get. And the Land Cruiser is not anywhere at all similar or as capable off-road. So that's your build and price, folks. The one last thing we didn't see that we'll check out, we got the price on that Wild Track. So the Wild Track, just real quickly so we don't forget. Sorry, Everglades is also a model to consider because it's now back. Yeah, could you take us to the Wild Track 2.7? So your Wild Track, out of the box, no modifications, no temptation, $959. So at $959, but let's see what happens if we do a Badlands and we Sasquatch it. So avoid the 2.7. Let's say we go with the 2.7 liter because it's not that huge of a difference. And we throw on a Sasquatch package. I'd always take mid package, and that's the problem too. Wild Track comes with mid package. I want those heated seats. So even just the Badlands with the mid package, you're at $896. It's $100 less. So that's where I'm like, for an extra $100 to avoid modifying for thousands of dollars the vehicle, unless you're paying cash, that becomes really tempting. And then when you throw on the Sasquatch with a 2.7 liter, $946. So I think, and then have a grill that I'm not really fond of, but have a much nicer all black interior. So folks, I'd love to hear what you think is the right Bronco build. I'm starting to think it's just a Badlands Sasquatch. You don't have to modify anything. 2.7 liter, you've got the nicest looking interior. You've got now a 12-inch touchscreen, all black interior, so no beige colors in it. Our Wild Track is beige and blue.
Yeah, the interior of the Badlands was great. The orange touch
Best
everywhere.
interior.
Yeah, we love that color. The badge, orange badge at the on the outside, and the same color in the inside was perfect. Yeah. We have a question here from 4 High 4
Yeah,
Low.
the catch can. Great question,
Yeah.
4 High 4 Low. I've asked a parts specialist from Ford, and he's blown engines before. And he's had Honda engines that drink oil like an old alky, an old alcoholic, a burnt out alcoholic. That's how those Hondas drink oil. And I was thinking he'd definitely tell me the catch can is an absolute must. And he told me, you know what, if you don't, incredibly beat on your Bronco, or if you're not hauling every single day and putting a lot of like more high heat temperatures, he said if you're going to basically race your Bronco or tow all the time and the temperatures are going to be higher, you don't need a catch can at all. He said for just regular, mostly regular use, occasional towing, occasional off-roading where you don't overheat the vehicle, you don't have to worry about, collecting more metal shavings. You'll be okay. But that's what he said. But then I know Dwayne from Driven Wild Outdoors, he seems to be really a big fan of the catch can. I know that he got some metal shavings in the video that he did. It's tough to say, there's people on both sides. I think a big question for me is I'm not doing the catch can because I'm not going to keep this Bronco for 15 years. If I was, I wouldn't take any chances. I think it's worth the money. But for keeping something 4, 5, 6 years, I really don't think it's needed. Flo Jerez, hope I didn't pronounce that wrong. Shame on me if I did, but it's not intentional. Thank you for joining. Thank you so much. Hello. Welcome to the show. So in the end, if I were to do it all over again, my vote, Badlands, and it's just a question of whether I'd Sasquatch it or not. And at least on the Badlands, the Sasquatch upgrade is the least expensive upgrade. But let's just make sure I definitely take it with mid-package. We've got $5,240 for the Sasquatch to prevent me from maybe throwing on, $8,000 in upgrades. I'd probably get that. Now, I took the Wild Track this time because I felt it necessary as an inquisitive person. And I tell people with the channel, let me waste my money. Let me make mistakes. Let me break things. I'll do it for us all. So I want to try the Wild Track 3.0. My deciding factor was I'm not really, helping anyone out. If I just get another Badlands, I've got to try out that new Haas 3.0 and report back on it. And yes, it's super comfy. It's great. It's an incredible ride on bad roads. It is a better ride on bad roads than your Badlands. Your stock Badlands comes with a nice Sasquatch suspension, the Haas 2.0, and I think that's great. So I'd be really just torn whether I Sasquatch. If I was going to long-term the Bronco, I'd Sasquatch it. And if I was going to really long-term my Bronco and keep it something like 15 years, then I'd just probably get a stock Badlands so I can have the Haas 2.0, and I'd throw on bigger tires and throw a lift on it. And the modifications wouldn't bother me so much. It's just we change more often, and you pretty much always lose the money that you've put into for modifications. It's a big way to lose money fast. So you're better off to get a more equipped model and have that better resale than to spend $6,000 or $8,000 modifying something, and then you go to sell it 2, 3, 4 years later. That $8,000 or $6,000 or $4,000, whatever you put in, it's lost.
Mm-hmm. That's true. You need to check for the resale too.
Just today, I asked a client with a King Ranch, I said, well, do you have your original mags? The mags he has on it were expensive. The guy's got money. He spent good money for some really expensive mags. But his resale was going to be less. Thankfully, he's like, yeah, of course I kept the original mags. I'm like, good job. Alrighty. So build and price, I'll end out by saying it's so tough choosing. And a lot comes down to personal. I definitely take a Badlands.
We have many models, so it's hard to choose. Yeah.
Take a Badlands. I change the front grille, and I don't know if I would Sasquatch it because we can see, if you want to show it maybe in the pictures, just to wrap up, a Sasquatch versus a Badlands, they're both really big vehicles. They're both really big vehicles. And I kind of wanted a Raptor this time, and I couldn't get a Raptor. And I said, what's the closest thing to a Raptor? I think your budget Raptor is a Wild Track. It has the Haas 3.0 suspension, meaning huge Fox shocks. So we'll try to find those for you here. We've got some photos. Any idea? We've got the Fox suspension here. You can see in the photo here. You know what? I'm going to let you, help me out with this, Marie. If you can get back to that other photo, to the suspension, if you can just cycle through right down here. If you can make that appear. So the Fox suspension, you've got an external bypass cartridge or container that you see right here. I took a back photo of it because from one angle you just see the shock. So you've got that there, helping your shock not overheat. The suspension is bigger, it's beefier, it's comfier. We've driven at high speeds, driving over roads. Now, between our Badlands, non-Sasquatch, and this, on all the little bumps that kind of ripple through road, well, little bumps, like 3-4 inch bumps, but a lot of them in a corner, this will left, right a little more, but it still stays very much under control and you feel it less. So if you want to just cycle through the pictures, please, of the suspension, that would be fantastic. So you see right there, that's a really good photo of it. You've got your 2 cartridges, your main shock. This is really a beefy suspension made to, when you jump up in the air, to help have your wheel not bang completely down, and when you land, not have it bang back up into the top of the tower. You've got bigger tie rods, definitely bigger, better tie rods, and you have that steering wheel rack. So good if you're gonna beat around jumping this thing and doing donuts and playing around in like rough fields with it, and doing donuts in the fields, not just flat pavement. So it's ready to get pushed around more. That's your Sasquatch suspension present on the Badlands without going Sasquatch. I think the Badlands non-Sasquatch is an awesome bargain because you're getting fantastic off-road suspension, but you will have a smaller tie rod and the less beefy steering wheel rack. So yeah, if I was paying cash, probably Black Diamond, because we don't keep them that long. A difference of $170 over 1 to 1.5 years. I go, hey, what's $2,000 or $2,300 to have the most equipped model I can actually get my hands on, because the Raptor, can't get my hands on that. Everglades, couldn't when I ordered it then. I'd suspect a longer wait trying to get an Everglades now. So let us know in the comments which Bronco for 2024 is the best Bronco to you. That Black Diamond still has that 12-inch screen. It's just such a deal now that you can get the mid-pack. You could always get the mid-package on the Black Diamond, but with the 12-inch screen, if you're paying cash, really consider the Black Diamond. It's one heck of a good deal. So that's it. That's episode 1. Let's jump into episode 2. So episode 2, we're going to talk a little bit about the Ford Maverick. They have definitely been very popular on the show. I do not feel that I need to throw in an oil catch can on a Ford Maverick unless you have the 4K tow package or 2K tow package and you're towing really regularly. You need an oil catch can when you're planning on creating more metal debris in your engine, and that's going to be from the, either if you're going from really hot to really cold temperatures quickly, or just if you're kind of more race or really hard working situation. That's when you'll have a little bit more engine filings that you don't want to recycle. But remember, vehicles have oil filters, and they're made for catching oil, metal shavings. That's what they're made for. Now, if you're gonna space out too far, space apart your oil changes, more reason to get an oil catch can. But oil catch cans, the best thing is just to do your oil changes regularly, and do them more regularly if you tow regularly, or if you're hard on your vehicle, if you're bringing up those temperatures above what they normally should be on a regular basis. So, if you're doing a lot of hard driving in, let's say, sand or mud, and there's a lot of tire spin and causing or spinning around in the snow, if your engine's working harder, do your oil changes, check your owner's manual. It's going to tell you what to do under, let's say, heavy towing. And a lot of hard off-roading where the engine's getting hotter than it normally would be. Follow the heavy towing schedule. So Ford Maverick. Yes, Ford Maverick. Wouldn't throw in a catch can, but I would definitely order one. You can still get a Ford Maverick. You might even find one. People are occasionally finding one in inventory. Some places won't charge over MSRP, but the key to getting a Ford Maverick and getting it at the right price is probably going to be an order, But you need to order it right. Order it from a dealership that will put in an email, in writing, roughly how many allocations they're getting for the year and what number you are on their list. If they tell you we're getting 10 Mavericks this year and then, tell you you're number 32, well, you can imagine that's looking like a 3-year wait. Avoid them. Some dealers won't want to talk about that at all. Well, either you have a sales guy or gal that just doesn't quite know what they're talking about. You can ask them, well, can you ask your manager? Can I speak to your manager and ask the manager these questions? And if they just really don't want to tell you and they kind of have an attitude of that's none of your business, well, that means they're in a bad spot, or they're just not a very service-oriented place, and you don't want to order from that place. Go order from somewhere that can actually tell you, hey, you know what? We're going to get about 32 Mavericks this year. We've got right now 15 that have kind of carried over and new orders. So you'd be number roughly 16 or 17. That's the type of place to order from. You're thinking, hey, I'll get this in a relatively fair amount of time. And you can even get a hybrid built this year, because right now in the system, there's roughly about 58, 59,000, maybe 60,000 Maverick orders out there. Maybe ever so slightly more. But remember, Ford's going to be able to build somewhere between 100 to 140,000 Mavericks this year, unless there's a UAW strike. If there's a UAW strike, I've covered the topic before, but I think it's going to last roughly, well, if it's very short, I don't see how things would get resolved. Rather, I'd say there's 5% chance there's no UAW strike and a 95% chance there is a UAW strike. And it's going to come down to who runs out of money first, because the demands are high. They're very high. It works out to, I think, about $150 an hour. That's a big ask. Working, though, 32 hours per week.
It's a good
works
timing
out,
for a strike.
Well, no, it's a good timing for a strike in a way, because yes and no. The UAW fund for a strike, there's a lot. And manufacturers, the big three, Ford, Dodge Ram, Ford, Stellantis, I should say, and GM, have had fantastic years in regards to profitability. And inventory is getting high at dealerships. So the problem is the UAW can afford a strike. Ford, Stellantis, and GM can definitely afford a strike. So what's going to get resolved over 10 years? I think it's going to come down to who runs out of money first. Or, instead of, and it's about 2 months to run out of money for the UAW. And it's about 2 months for inventories to go back down to basically zero. So Ford's got about 2 months inventory, and the UAW's got about 2 months worth of funds. Either they'll find a compromise after 1 month, because both sides are going to be like, we're running out. Or if the UAW doesn't want to buckle at all, because, and I understand, the cost of living has shot up. And I don't know what happened around 1971 or 1972, but inflation and salaries have historically, in the last 100 years, always followed each other. But the cost of living come 1971 skyrocketed. And it's weird, because we went towards a global economy. We went into globalization. And do we have the same standard of living as we did in 1970? No, we don't have the same standard of living that we had in 1970. We've been, you could say in a way, the cost of living has gone up many times more than inflation and salaries. Inflation's followed salaries perfectly, but the cost of living has gone up a tremendous amount, meaning your money does less, because most of your money goes towards what? Taxes. A ton of money goes towards taxes. They tax your salary, and then they tax you when you buy something in most states. And here, 15% tax when you buy something, after they've taken maybe 42% of your overall salary, making, that's a lot of salary. What is that, like 63% tax? I don't feel like, I'm in no mood to do math right now, because I'm on a rant, so I'm seeing foggy right now. But we've been the cost of living has gone up, meaning you get less from your money. Taxes have gone way up. You remember, I've talked about this in previous episodes. Income tax was supposed to only be created to help pay for the war. And surprisingly, income tax is still there. And, there's no world war going on. So no major war going on globally. So with the cost of living going up, we have our dollars go less far, meaning you have less choice, less freedom. And at a certain point where you have very little freedom, well then, it's just a form of, invisible credit slavery. Maybe we're not there yet, but some people, I think, I've had $35,000 of credit debt before, and it was like $800 of interest per month. Now I was making, after taxes and everything, maybe $1,700 per month. That was essentially, I got myself out of kind of a credit slave situation. All my money was going towards taxes, and my debt was still at $35,000 because, I'd put $900 down, but when $800 goes down to paying just the interest, I was never getting myself out of debt. So I had to make some major changes.
Yeah.
Things are pretty good now, but
speaking about the strike, Car Question Answered was asking, is your dealership doing anything to prepare for possible strike? Can be prepared for that? That's a good question.
Yes, that is an incredible question. Dealers, unfortunately, I don't want dealers to prepare for a strike, because preparing for a strike means holding on to more of your inventory. And how do you hold on to more of your inventory? You throw in dealer fees, you throw in documentation fees, you add in a market adjustment fee. And I fear that if the strike, I think the major, the big three, fantastic question, by the way, and thank you so much, Brandon from Car Questions Answered, being here. Fantastic show. Love your show. I think the big three have more, unless the UAW is willing to have a pretty big compromise. I think it's easy for the big three to just say, you know what? If our dealerships run out of inventory, people are just gonna, yes, the volume sales will go down. On paper, temporarily, it'll be kind of pretty darn bad, but there'll be a lot of orders that get put into the system. And that means money later on. And it also, we saw in the last 2 years, what did very low inventories mean? It meant an opportunity for dealerships to overcharge, and then manufacturers increase their MSRPs to help two things. One, for as a manufacturer, it's like, well, why are we letting the dealership make this extra profit? They shouldn't be making it. They knew the dealers were making it, so it makes it a lot easier for them to increase their prices. I think the big three have the bigger end of the stick. Even though the UAW has a ton of money to go into a strike, I think if they go into a strike, there is a good likelihood that after a month things get resolved if the UAW is willing to really back off on their full demands. And they just threw in a counter offer. So they had thrown in it's going back and forth. Originally what they asked for from the big three was pretty much flat out refused. A counter offer was made. The president of the UAW just threw in the trash the offer, so you could tell that it was looking like it was way off. But now there's been a counter offer, and we'll wait to find out Ford's, Stellantis, and GM's reaction to that counter offer. But I'd say there's good chances that I think the wise thing might be to have a bit of a strike, but I think the big three can definitely handle doing a strike for 2 months, and then the UAW is going to be out of funds. It's going to be horrible for us as buyers because dealerships are going to naturally try to hold on to their inventory. I can tell you my dealership, I've already seen it. We're going to just allow our inventory to go to zero and then expect the sales team to be very professional and help people understand that, hey, we ran out of inventory because we continued to sell at the right price. and now we're out of inventory. We're good guys. Now help us out, throw in an order, and we promise you, here's our written signature. When your order comes in, you're going to also buy at the right price. You're going to lock in and freeze that price that's there right now. You're not going to get a bad surprise. It's not going to show up and we're going to say, hey, look, we have no inventory, so we're adding 5,000. No, it's your order. You'll pay it from the price that
So
depending where you are on the list, because right now an F-150 is only a month and a half to get. A Maverick like this one was 8 months. This was ordered back in October, so almost a year.
yeah, so again, it's the only victim of that will be the customer again.
At
They
certain dealerships.
won't have inventory to buy, or they will buy it at a much higher price. So
Yeah.
it's not the dealership that will be affected that much by the strike. It will be more the customer.
At a good dealership, your Maverick worked out to be extremely advantageous for you because yes, you waited a very long time, but Ford gave you a special rebate. You were in a situation because my Bronco came in, we thought it'd be a year to get a wild track Bronco. It took 3 months, 3.5 months.
Yeah,
So
it's not supposed to be like that.
but you made your Maverick paid you money. Like you got paid to have that for a few months. So low inventory can, in a lot of dealerships, yes, the consumer will be paying for this. I'd say at good dealerships, the consumer will be inconvenienced, but that it'll still work out pretty darn good for, low inventory also means trade values going back up. Bad if you're in a situation where you've got a $500 beater used vehicle and you're going to be shopping for, let's say, a $30,000 or $20,000 used vehicle, because likely that $20,000 used vehicle, we're going to see the same thing we saw a few years ago when new inventory goes next to zero, or even, sometimes people are really stuck on, I want a red F-150. Well, I'll get the 1 or 2 year old F-150 on the used instead. So you got new clients going over to the used. The used inventories will go down, and it will cause trade-ins to go up, but it'll also cause used prices to go up as well. So I think there are going to be a lot of negative points to this unless it only lasts a month. If we have a month, our inventories at dealerships at Jeep, not Jeep, Stellantis, that's Jeep, Chrysler. I don't feel like listing off the list. I'm tired. They've got a lot underneath the brand, but Stellantis, GM, and Ford, we have inventories that can handle 1 month strike with very little. There shouldn't be any change. No one should be saying, oh, well, this strike has lasted 1 week, we're boosting up their prices. What some dealerships might say is, hey, this strike is going to last, or it could last a very long time. So if you want this vehicle in inventory, yeah, we're adding 2,000 or 3,000. And that's not just the big three. Right now, if you want, a lot of Toyota dealerships have they're not calling it markups, but they're hidden markups. You're paying, $5,000, $6,000 for $1,000 worth or $1,500 worth of stuff. So I'd say that's my full review of what's going down on the UAW strike. As well, just to wrap up, I never did a full end to episode 2. We just kind of jumped into episode 3, but the end and conclusion for episode 2 was order up a Maverick. It's a fantastic truck. It will come in, and it'll almost certainly come in as a 2024. Howdy, Ford Video Guy. Thank you so much for making it to the show. Now, I don't want to run in because usually All Terrain Nation almost always has a show at 9 o'clock. YouTube Spotter's Guide, I agree with you. Jeep is currently overpriced. I don't know what they're doing. This wild idea that they can have, high-end luxury prices almost. When you're looking at a Grand Wagoneer at 125,000, what is it, US? And it's like, what? A Navigator is like a fully loaded Navigator is like $122,000 Canadian, so about 100 US. When you're looking at a Grand Wagoneer being more expensive than the Lincoln Navigator, no, Jeep can't have BMW M Series prices, or anyways, S Series Audi prices, or Mercedes AMG prices. They shouldn't have Mercedes prices either. They're as reliable as Mercedes, but they need to not confuse reliability poor reliability with a reason for high prices on the long term. I have no issues with leasing a Mercedes. I think a Mercedes is a fantastic vehicle to lease. I've many times dreamt of having a Mercedes 500 SL or 550 or a 55 AMG, all those nice convertibles. They're gorgeous vehicles, but they come with a certain price tag. They're not as reliable as Porsche. So speaking of Porsche, I know we talked about doing an hour show, so
It's always more than you think.
it's always more than I think. Now, you guys can hound on me and say that you only made it to the live tonight because you want to hear the EV talk. If so, we'll do the EV talk. We'll wrap it up within 20 minutes as a last episode. And if not, we'll maybe keep it for next week. So let us know in the comments section, did you come for not EV bashing? Not in any way. Not in any way. It's not EV bashing. It's just a little bit of
questioning about the future.
Questioning about the future. Marie, I know you've prepared your Jeep episode.
Yeah, I can do it quickly if you
Yeah?
want.
All right. So Marie said she can do it quickly. Let's put her to the test. So really here, we're going into episode 4 of the live. We'll put this into a little mini episode later. But the big question, are EVs heading for a boom, or are they headed for doom, chaos? I think it's a bit of both, and it's a really weird situation, and you've got opinions on both ends, and usually they're very polarized. People usually fall into one extreme or another. It's either EVs are the future, they're the best thing ever, they're amazing for the environment, we have to go there, or you have the I don't ever want to drive an EV. They're completely awful. Some people even think they're slow and, cheap and poorly made. And that's like a complete different extreme. And probably the reality is somewhere in between the two. So we're going to talk about at least Jeep, the CEO of Stellantis, Jeep, the CEO of Stellantis, see what he has to say about the whole EV industry. Because you even have some CEOs. Previously, Toyota, the previous CEO of Toyota was like, we don't want to rush into EVs. They're not the greatest thing since sliced bread. They were pretty much going all in on just gas, hybrids, or hydrogen technology. So let's talk a little bit about that. What's going on with Stellantis CEO?
Yeah, I was looking at a video tonight just before we are going here, and it was saying that the future of EVs is not that sure. We all knew for a long time, many years ago, okay, EVs is the future. Everybody was enthusiastic with the EVs, the electric mode, but we didn't think that much far. So that's what the CEO of Stellantis said. The price of the EVs, we think, probably will increase of 50% in the near future.
So that's what when we say we think, we're not talking about us. We're talking about the CEO of Stellantis, because we've got news on the CEO of Porsche, BMW, Stellantis, and Toyota, the new and the old CEO of Toyota, and they all have some very interesting points to share, because it could almost make you think that EVs are heading for a complete doom, that it's just complete crap and chaos.
One of these reasons for that increase that we think everybody thinks could have in the future is because, first, of the lithium. We might be running low in the future. Same thing for nickel, graphite, and cobalt. So if we're running low, we can maybe think about a price increase, like we had before
demand.
1 or 2 years ago, when we have trouble to have some accessories and the demand. So that could be a big problem in the future. And the fact that he said the cheap Chinese cars are getting big markets, and the American and European market doesn't do that much money, that much profit per EVs cars, sorry. So it could be difficult for them to stay alive when the cheap Chinese car maybe will affect the market more in the future. So that's another thing that we need to think. What will happen to our American company European company because of the Chinese market.
Yeah, prices going. The Stellantis CEO predicts that electric vehicle prices will increase by 50%. That means middle class. If the government's forcing you, if the government legally forces companies to only make electric vehicles and they're 50% more, that means the middle class can forget about private ownership, private transportation. It means either ride sharing on the bus, or if you have a little bit more money, maybe it means autonomous taxis coming to your door every day, and you're sending off your dollars off to a corporation, and you're never seeing them again because it's like your phone bill. You use it, it's gone, and after so many years, your cell phones seem to self-destruct basically. After Apple were really bad for this for a while, and people even wondered if the updates were to make your phone less efficient. So 50% increase would definitely push many people, the majority of the people, out of vehicle ownership.
Yes, and at Jeep, what affect them more than other fabricant is they said they put more electric EVs on SUVs, because Jeep, we know it's Cherokee, Renegade, stuff like that. So the ambition to have EVs, SUVs doesn't help. They lose customer. Why? Because of the recall of the fire. Some fabricant wasn't ready with that technology. Huge dealer markups happened. We know it. And at the same time, SUVs, EV, we know it needs more power to go on the road, and the autonomy of the battery, more the vehicle will age, less the autonomy of the battery will be good.
Less autonomy with time.
So
until we have solid state batteries.
For the future, they will lose customer that don't love the autonomy of the battery, that doesn't keep that much.
A long-term Ford or Jeep customer, or whatever brand, if you've been with that brand for 10, 15, 20, even 30 years, but you get one of these EVs, it could permanently burn a customer, a buyer, a faithful buyer of that brand, if their battery, let's say on the 10-year mark, it's down to, it's lost 35% or 40% of its overall original specs, meaning charge time, holding a charge, autonomy, so range. If you've lost 40%, you might say, oh man, this is horrible. I'm never buying X brand again.
Because customer always ask, what's the autonomy of that car? They doesn't ask what will be the autonomy in 8 years.
No.
What's the autonomy right now?
And generally, I don't hear a whole lot of, oh my goodness, that's so much. I hear, oh, okay, I can, like on a Lightning, you tell them their autonomy on an F-150 Lightning standard range, and occasionally you get people saying, well, I only city drive. I'll never need that. That's pretty rare. Most, at least in my region, I hear a lot of, oh, that's not enough. And I'm like, well, in the winter, you're going to lose 30 to 50%. So
if it's already short, you're
going to lose up to half of that range. So 270 miles or 380 kilometers. I tell people you're going to lose up to half of that range in the winter. It definitely helps if you park in a heated garage. But their response is, oh, wow, is there a bigger battery? And they go, and then they're like, oh, wow, okay, 515 kilometers, great. I'm like, don't forget, you lose up to half of that in the winter. Oh, okay, oh boy, I could maybe make that work. That's now. That's not what it's going to be in 10 or 12 years.
Yeah. And in this video of the CEO of Stellantis, I really loved what he said, because we didn't think about the future like that before. We always think, right now, I want an electric vehicle.
Right now, society.
In his conclusion, he said, this is going to be a low-cost production course in the future to American companies, brands, to survive the Chinese.
Yeah.
So everybody will need to go on low-cost productivity, so maybe cheaper material. We don't know where it's going.
Now, there's a lot of misconception. One extreme is to think that these electric vehicles catch on fire far more. No, they catch on fire about 50 times less than gasoline engines, because for gasoline engines per 100,000 vehicles, there's a little bit over 2,500 vehicles per 100,000 that catch fire. Gasoline. Now, per 100,000 electric vehicles on the road, it's in the 50s. So it's about 50 times less. However, there's not a lot of very old electric vehicles on the road, and there are a lot of very old gasoline-powered vehicles on the road. So that's something that people generally, both of those things, people almost never talk about. But here at Johnny's Car Care and Reviews, we don't want anyone getting fooled. So hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, hit the bell notification, not to miss out, because we cover all the information when we cover a subject. So our lives are long. If you don't like long lives, come for the mini episodes, because they're generally about 10 minutes to max 50 minutes. But one thing to remember is we are a now society. You said that really well. People think about now. We're a now society, and that's something that absolutely needs to change in politics. We need to be not a now society. In politics, we need to be thinking about 50, 100, 200 years down the road. And actually, Marcus Aurelius definitely said that when he was talking about a good politician or a wise man, he said a wise man, or a good politician, you could say, doesn't make rules and laws for the now. When they make them, it's because they're thinking about the effect way down the road. Or another way to say it is, a wise man plants a tree, and I'm not sure if Marcus Aurelius put it this way, but I think this is another leader, you could say. A wise man plants a tree that he will never benefit from its shade. So an old wise man plants a tree essentially to help out,
well said.
2 generations below him. And that's how politics need to work, with some form of collaboration of, what needs to get done. How can we make it get done, instead of, hey, tonight I'm drinking 8 glasses of scotch on the taxpayer's dollar because I'm so proud I made so-and-so look like an idiot tonight, instead of, hey, I helped, move towards a fruitful, productive law. But anyways, that's my rant on that. So how about your coverage of Stellantis CEO? Does that pretty much wrap it up?
Yeah, that's wrap it up.
Okay, and that's very different from, what's being said at companies like Tesla, where, EVs are the future. It seems like it's the only solution. And I think the reality is it's somewhere in between the two. EVs can be the future. It's definitely profitable for Tesla, because right now Tesla doesn't sell any gasoline vehicles. So they get given tax credits, carbon credits by the government, and companies that don't meet up and match up to where they need to be either have a choice: really huge fines in the billions of dollars from the government, or give billions of dollars but less billions of dollars to Tesla. And it's rough, because yes, it helps Tesla be more competitive against Chinese manufacturers, because then Tesla has fake profitability and they can artificially lower their price. But they have that huge profitability because they're getting billions of dollars every single year from companies that are selling products that people want. People want a Hemi engine, but it's being forced. It's going the way of the dinosaur. It's getting that comet impact. But this time the comet it's not a comet. It's a laws passed by governments. So that's the rough part. A lot of these vehicles, I think it's all about choice. I think choice is the best option, and we should get choice. And that's why Toyota is actually doing this, I'd say, the best, because they'll have some all-electric vehicles. Previously, the CEO seemed to be very much anti-EV, but the new CEO is very much about choice, and he wants there to be EVs for people who want EVs, but he knows that the EVs likely will not be accessible by the middle class, so he wants there to be vehicles for every class of individual. So Toyota's going to work to continue to have some very fuel efficient gasoline vehicles, some very fuel efficient hybrids, plug-ins, as well as hydrogen. Now Ford is doing all the same as Toyota. They want an array of vehicles that can, provide a vehicle for pretty much everyone in the buying new vehicle buying driver's seat without the hydrogen. However, Toyota is also working on solid state battery technology, and that is something we're going to cover in next week's live. We're going to be talking about Toyota and solid state batteries because that's pretty impressive. You can be looking at potentially 800 kilometers of range, so roughly almost 600 miles of range. That's a lot of range. Charge times of 10 minutes. And the big high point beyond a charge, full charge, empty to full in 10 minutes with solid state batteries. They're working with Panasonic. And this data or these pieces of information would be based off of, Samsung's stated solid state battery performances. Well, if you put that into, if you take what they've said what solid state batteries will be able to do and you put that towards Toyota, which plans on being able to, be producing these by mid 2020s. You've got incredible range, incredible charge times, but incredible durability. We're talking about at the 30-year mark of a battery being used in a vehicle, only having lost 10% of its initial stats. So range, charge time, all that. Only a loss of 10%. So 90% of its original efficacy. That would be incredible. But China is definitely a major issue because a lot of lithium right now comes from China. And that's a huge problem because they prioritize their vehicles. You can be, capitalism, people sometimes say bad things about capitalism, but when it's not a monopoly, when it's not just, one or two companies, let's say like BlackRock and Vanguard owning everything, and then they can push forward whatever agenda they want to push forward. But generally, an open and free capitalist system would make it that batteries don't get prioritized into a country's vehicles. They go to the highest bidder. So that's a bit of a problem. For High For Low, thank you very much for the support. We will wrap this up so that we can get to All Terrain Nation with everyone. But China, the huge scare for companies like Porsche, Stellantis, really everyone who's not gung-ho about EVs is almost all the lithium comes from China. And China will prioritize their vehicle as soon as there is a supply issue. So, BMW CEO also not huge on EVs. We've got a quote here. This quote was from the CEO. Producing combustion engine vehicles that offer more fuel efficiency would be key, both from a profit perspective and an environmental perspective. Yes, there is a negative environmental impact from creating EVs in a lot of places. Are still producing electricity from coal, and not just third world countries. The USA, China, the two biggest automobile markets are producing a lot of coal-powered electricity. So you have horrible pollution to create the battery and a lot of issues in regards to human rights because some batteries are mined by kids. Their conditions are horrible, no protective equipment, and literally just mined by people in shorts with a shovel and a pickaxe in Africa. So
that's
horrible conditions for mining lithium, horrible pollution for those rare minerals. And I'm gonna say it. My Lightning is great, but I really don't love it. It's great. It's an amazing vehicle. It's so cool. It's an amazing sound system. It accelerates. It's wild. It's so good, but I don't love it. I love my Bronco, and it's just because an electric vehicle has no soul for me. It's got no soul. It's soulless. You hit the pedal and you fly through time and space, but
It's fun at the beginning, but in long term, yeah, it feels like it has no,
No
soul.
soul.
I agree with you.
Yeah, my 95
I prefer to drive the
Mustang,
Bronco.
my 95 Mustang was, my old cranky buddy, he's my old cranky buddy. He made a lot of noise. They throw me around. It was, I don't know, it's just gasoline vehicles make noise, have care. They have
You
all
feel
their
more
own
the
noise.
car.
You feel more the car. They've got character and soul. And, for companies like Porsche and BMW, they have been all about selling vehicles that, bring out emotion, love, and, these feelings of excitement through sound. And, electric vehicles
The
handle
sound
great
again.
too, but it comes down to the sound. I don't like, in minus 30 weather, I don't like filling up the tank with gas. I much prefer charging my electric vehicle at home. Last
Yeah.
winter was a joke. I get home once a week. It took
Yeah,
me
you don't have to plug it each day.
10 to 15 seconds. Because the rest of the time I wasn't charging my vehicle, I was inside the house talking, having a nice little night with you. So BMW, very much worried about it. So that's the CEO of BMW. Now Porsche. Porsche, we test drove at the Porsche Road Show, we test drove the Taycan. It was incredible, and it like really incredible, but soulless. And Porsche's worried about this because from 2021 until now, Taycan sales have done this. And originally, it was one of the best-selling vehicles. They're selling roughly, I think I have the numbers here, but I think year one when it came out, like 41,600 vehicles, and last year 32,000, and this year they probably won't sell 30,000 of them. The sales are going down on
That's
this
true.
model.
When we drove the Taycan, this didn't feel that special.
No.
Not that much.
It was really impressive, but the 911, we're like, oh my goodness, like the 911 Turbo was like mind blowing, and there was such an emotional reaction. This, we got into it because they told us to get into it, and we're like, oh, okay,
we'll
well,
try that.
okay, it's fast like the Lightning.
It's fun. It's comfortable.
Oh,
it goes well.
It handles
Okay,
better than the
Can
Lightning,
we go with the
but
911 again?
yeah. And at the end of the day, I was like, my Lightning is better because I've got space in the front. I've got space. I can haul. Like the Lightning is super fast. It's an amazing truck.
But again, at the end of the day, we prefer the Bronco.
Yep. And it would have even more character if you let me install the electric valve cutouts. One button, and we bypass the mufflers, and then you've got so much more character. It's like, not like a kid on a tantrum, but it's going to be loud like a child on a tantrum. But the Taycan, for all its amazingness, doesn't live up to the Porsche 911. And Porsche knows this. They know that this was one of their best-selling vehicles, outselling the 911, outselling the Boxster, I believe even outselling the Macan possibly, but then they're talking about going full electric on the Macan, and now they're pulling back the reins because sales are dropping on this, and rapidly, like rapid sales drops, and it's not just because of production issues. I think some people are realizing that electric vehicles are missing a little personality. So what's Porsche's solution? They're looking at a really cool solution. One, synthetic fuels and a bit of hydrogen, but definitely synthetic fuels. So with their synthetic fuel, the problem is right now it'd be $44.73 per gallon, or what is currently $7.57 a gallon by, they're hoping 2026, but it's like $7 a liter right now to produce it. But they're looking at producing synthetic fuel in Chile off a huge turbine. So we'll check that out. It's
You see how he's funny.
yes, in Chile, they've got this huge wind turbine, and it's gonna take water and split hydrogen from it so that they can, well, one, they want to make synthetic fuel, and they also want to make hydrogen and make hydrogen affordable. They believe they can make the hydrogen affordable, so they want to get high horsepower, 592 horsepower engines using gas, like, your gasoline engine, but assisted with hydrogen. Now, I've got a friend, he's a mechanical wizard. He's built his own truck. Well, he didn't build the whole truck. He modified a 20-year-old truck, a Dodge Dakota, and it runs on hydrogen now. It's gas and hydrogen. He uses gas to get up to speed, and then once he's at a consistent speed, like on the highway, he just flicks over to hydrogen, and he did that on his own. So Porsche wants to move towards synthetic fuels and hydrogen. Toyota also wants to move towards hydrogen. Toyota wants to have something for everyone, and so does Porsche. You know, Toyota's looking at 10 new EV models by 2026, but still having all gas, hybrid, and plug-in models. Like Ford has no intention of dropping gas and vehicles, no intention of dropping hybrids or plug-ins. I think a plug-in is an incredible option, but I do look forward to better battery technology. And if solid state batteries do come to vehicles, our current electric vehicles, I think will have a huge negative hit when it comes to resale. So that's something to consider when you're shopping an electric vehicle right now, is current batteries. How much life will you get out of them? And what kind of resale will you get if you plan on selling that in 5 years? If solid state batteries are around, we're pooched. Thank you so much, Ford Video Guy. Also, thank you for the feedback. The last comment about hydrogen, was that from 4 High 4 Low? Yeah, I think hydrogen is the way to go. You get a lot of power. We just need to find how to make it in an inexpensive way, and we need governments to stop being so difficult. They're forcing EVs on us right now, and that looks like the middle class will no longer have access to vehicles. Really frustrating to be forced onto the bus. So that's almost like taking away my steak. I will not accept that from governments. And the proof that they've got their own agenda and it's not for the people is that right now, even though Porsche is making hydrogen from carbon, so that big windmill is collecting carbon, they're essentially using that, and they're taking carbon and they're reusing carbon. They're taking carbon out of the atmosphere and they're splitting the hydrogen out of water so that they can then have hydrogen. Now it's very expensive at, $44 a gallon, but by 2026, they're thinking to be able to get to $7.57 per gallon. Electric vehicles, Tesla went through that process back in, 2011, 2012. They were losing a ton of money per model, and now they're making money. Well, making hydrogen production clean and affordable is right around the corner, 2026. But in Europe, European Union is saying what? Nope. They're not counting that. They're not counting a hydrogen vehicle as clean energy. They're essentially saying that's not going to pass for the 2030. I believe it's in the European Union. It's 2035. They want all vehicles to be essentially electric, because right now gasoline vehicles have no way of coming anywhere near what's required. Well, governments need to get on board and look and be open to the reality. A hydrogen vehicle that is making hydrogen by taking carbon out of the sky, it's kind of like refusing that is kind of like thinking it's a good idea in a northern country that gets barely any sunlight to clear cut forests and put up solar panels, because solar panels are good for the environment. Well, not if there's any sun. Like, sometimes I feel like, I don't like to swear, but sometimes I feel like some people need to be reminded that they're just being dumbasses. And it's not that these leaders are dumb, it's that they have their own agenda and they're making a lot of money from the EV push. They've got their own agenda, they're making their own money, and politicians should not be allowed to make any money other than their salary, forcing them to do what? Serve the people and work to get reelected. Unfortunately, you can also make backdoor deals where it's like, okay, well, I'm a corporation, do everything I say. I can't pay you now, but soon as you're done as a politician, here's a CEO position at the company, or you're going to sit on the board of directors and we're going to pay you $15 million or $20 million a year. Unfortunately, there's those kind of deals as well, but politicians they shouldn't be allowed to make money in the stock market, and they should only be allowed, the only money going into their bank account should be the money from taxpayers' dollars. We need to find ways to get them to work for the taxpayer, because Porsche is a prime example of politicians not working for the people, refusing hydrogen that is being made by taking carbon out of the atmosphere. So they're making a net positive. They're cleaning up the environment to then put hydrogen into vehicles and have vehicles put hydrogen back into the environment. It's the perfect system. It's far more environmentally friendly than EVs, especially EVs running on coal power. It's a fantastic solution. And the European Union is saying, nope, no, we're counting that as a high polluting combustion engine. So I guess I got to give out information and data and have a rant. What a wonderful night. What do you have to say about that, Marie?
All was said.
So e-combustibles, they want synthetic fuel, and they also want the combustion engine to run on synthetic fuel, and they want to be running on hydrogen. So a mix of the two. And if you currently own a vehicle, it would make it so that your old vehicle is nearly carbon neutral, a nearly carbon neutral alternative running on their synthetic fuels. And the European Union is saying, no, synthetic fuels are still just fuels. We'll count them as fuels. Even if the synthetic fuel is made from taking carbon out of the atmosphere. So really wild, really, really wild that they would refuse this. So right now, synthetic fuels wouldn't be allowed in the future European Union down 15, 17 years down the road. In some countries, it's by 2030. This wouldn't work because they're counting a synthetic fuel that took carbon out of the atmosphere to make a fuel as a regular old polluting fuel. And that depends on your opinion, of course, on carbon, because I think in certain countries there isn't a pollution problem, because if your country has a lot of forests or a lot of brushland, marshland, all those trees and plants that take in carbon, well, there are countries like Canada and Australia that our forests take in, and the brush take in more carbon than we actually produce. So we're actually already at a negative carbon impact. We're already, essentially as a country, you could say kind of cleaning the environment for the countries that pollute. So we'll be penalized and forced into electric vehicles anyways. And I do think that's a way to actually remove vehicle ownership from people. So let's see what happens. Stay tuned. We'll be covering this more so. But just got the Porsche 911 2000 and want to remind everyone for the car care section of all of this that you can buy an older vehicle, make sure it's mechanically sound, because the aesthetics, you can do a lot with aesthetics. We're in the process of having a very ugly 911 turn into a very beautiful 911. So 590 horsepower out of the hydrogen. So that's the coverage from the CEO of Porsche. He doesn't believe in this all EV future. He thinks I think a lot of CEOs are thinking EVs as a nice option for really wealthy people. Even though Tesla has been talking about coming out with a $23,000 all EV for the people vehicle, but we'll see if that actually happens. And we'll see what the price of the Cybertruck is once it actually comes out. But remember, Teslas are Tesla does not give us a sign of what the future can hold for Ford and Dodge and all those other companies that made gasoline-powered vehicles, because of the whole carbon credit system. Tesla is very profitable because it's forced money, it's theft, it's a scam. Companies that produce gas vehicles for people that like gas vehicles have to pay Tesla money, and Tesla gets to pretend like they have a very profitable profit. But that's Ford's money. That's Dodge's money. That's money from people who are still producing in volume V8s and 6 cylinders and even 4 cylinders. So I hope that people catch on to the scam that's going down. Governments are completely forcing out manufacturers that still want to give us choice and give us gasoline-powered vehicles. Now, Marie, you've been really patient for an hour show, so I'll let you sign out. Have the joy of signing out and saying bye to everyone.
Yeah, we wish you more cars and more powers. Have a good night, and please hit the like button for tonight.
And the bell notification not to miss out. If you want the mini episodes, this will get turned into mini episodes. Now, if you missed the live, though, when we do mini episodes, we could cut out as much as 40 minutes or even an hour from the original episode. Sometimes you'll get it all in mini episodes. Thank you very much for typing in finisher. That is very much appreciated. I'm going to head over to All Terrain Nation now. I'm late there. I want to go and see Dave and Kelly and see what they're up to. They've got some beautiful vehicles and they are fun, very fun and interesting show. And of course, Tuesday nights, see you on, I was going to say Ford Video Guide just because I'm seeing it here on the screen. It's in my head, but at Long MacArthur Ford. Take care, everyone. M. Peugeot, yes, sir. Yes. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.